Samuel Pepys. Both the most ordinary and the most extraordinary writer you will ever meet. Claire Tomlin, journalist and biographer, whose biography of Samuel Pepys won the Whitbread Award in 2002. Fact File: 23rd February 1633. Samuel Pepys, born in London. One of 11 children. January 1660, May 1669. Pepys writes his diary. 1665–66. Pepys lives through the Great Plague, when about 100,000 people died. September 1666. Pepys also experiences the Great Fire of London, that starts in a baker's shop in Pudding Lane and lasts for 3 days. 1703. Pepys dies, aged 70, but has lived long enough to see a new London emerge from the ashes of 1666, including Sir Christopher Wren's magnificent St. Paul's Cathedral. Pepys once said, "My mind is with child to see any strange thing." Perhaps this is why he continues to exert such power. School children learn that a typical diary entry opens with "up betimes" and closes "and so to bed." The importance of Samuel Pepys. Students of Restoration England have a unique advantage over students of other periods of British history. These students can step into the bustling life of everyday London through the magic doorway of Samuel Pepys' diary. Pepys kept his diary in shorthand and completed it in secrecy. It was eventually published in 1825 and was an instant success. Pepys has remained a household name to this day. A colorful decade. The decade that Pepys chronicled in his diary was remarkably colorful. Above all, he is most famous for his vivid descriptions of day-to-day life during the Great Plague of 1665–66 and his record of the Great Fire of London of 1666. This was perfect material for his curiosity and powers of observation. His writing is fresh and direct. While other diarists focused on politics or spiritual affairs, Pepys' interests were more human. His diary reflects his fascination with the way people behave, their greed, ambitions, jealousies, and scandals. A personal account. Pepys never intended to publish his diary, and because of this he reveals the most embarrassing details of his life. Being sat upon by a small dog, being spotted with a mistress, being terrified by a pillow and falling into a ditch. He always speaks his mind. The food at a friend's house stunk like the devil. Shakespeare's and Midsummer's Night's Dream is the most ridiculous play I ever saw in my life. He also presents a truthful picture of himself, including his cruel treatment of his long-suffering wife Elizabeth. He even describes an agonizing operation to remove a bladder stone, which he characteristically kept in a special case to show off to friends. Humble origins. Pepys' father was a tailor. His mother had been a domestic servant. From these humble origins, Pepys rose rapidly in the world. He was, in his own words, a very rising man. This owed a great deal to some helpful connections. It was a time of great naval expansion, and his cousin, Sir Edward Montagu, got him a job in the Navy Office. He started as clerk of the King's ships and ended up running the Admiralty. Unusually for the era, he worked hard and opposed corruption. He was also an MP and president of the Royal Society, as well as a man about town and a figure in royal circles. Living through the plague. Pepys was living and working in London when the plague began in May 1665. The disease spread with frightening speed in the narrow, smelly streets and rat-infested slums of London. In the summer heat, thousands of people died every month, and all who could afford fled from the city. But Pepys stayed and observed what was happening with appalled fascination. Houses where the plague had struck were closed up, and a red cross painted on the door with the inscription, "Lord have mercy on us." At night, carts rumbled through the deserted streets, gathering up the dead and dumping them into pits for common burial. One of Pepys' diary entries, in late August 1665, begins on this haunting note: "But now, how few people I see, and those walking like people that have taken leave of the world." The Great Fire of London. Life in the city was just about returning to normal when the Great Fire broke out. Pepys described the poor people staying in their houses till the very fire touched them. As darkness fell, he saw the fire spread in corners and upon steeples and between churches and houses in a most horrid, malicious, bloody flame. This resulted in the dreadful noise of the cracking of houses at their ruin. King Charles II personally supervised the blowing up of buildings to make a fire break. Little could be done, however, until the wind dropped and the fire burned itself out. By that time, the old city of London had been destroyed, and the great church of St. Paul was a hollow shell. The final years. Pepys stopped writing his diary only 3 years after the Great Fire, because he feared he was losing his eyesight. He did so with a heavy heart. "It was," he wrote, "almost as much to see myself into my grave." But his eyes recovered, and his professional career flourished. Pepys said that the era of the reign of Charles II began with a clap of laughter, and when we read his diary we can see what he meant. It reveals him as a charmingly honest, though deeply flawed man. Reading his diary today is like having an energetic and amusing companion who brings a distant and sometimes grim age to life.